The roadside bar outside Fort Campbell, Kentucky was the kind of place where locals and soldiers mixed freely. On this Saturday afternoon, the spring sun was setting when 5 bikers walked in, their leather vests marking them as Iron Wolves, a motorcycle club with a reputation for trouble. At the far end sat Colonel James Parker, 84 years old, wearing a faded Vietnam veteran's cap and nursing whiskey. His weathered hands rested on the bar as he chatted quietly with the bartender. James came here every Saturday, same time, same seat, a ritual he'd maintained since his wife passed 2 years ago. The bikers were loud from the moment they entered. Their leader, Razor, stood 6'4" with arms covered in tattoos. He surveyed the bar with entitled confidence, used to intimidation working in his favor. His crew spread out, taking up space, making their dominance known. Most patrons shifted uncomfortably, not wanting trouble. Razor positioned himself directly next to Colonel Parker. "Old man, you're in my spot." James looked up slowly, his blue eyes still sharp. "Bar's got plenty of seats, son. I've been sitting here for 20 years. His voice was calm, measured, the voice of someone who'd faced real danger and wasn't impressed by posturing. Razor's face darkened. "I don't think you heard me, Gramps. Move!" Now, the bar went quiet, conversations dying. The bartender, Mike, a former Army sergeant, put his hand under the bar where he kept a baseball bat. What happened next would turn a simple bar confrontation into something that would be talked about for years. If you think age means weakness, stay with this story, because you're about to witness something unforgettable. James stood up slowly, movements deliberate despite stiffness. "I'm not looking for trouble. I'll move." He picked up his glass and turned toward an empty table. That's when Razor shoved him hard in the back. The elderly veteran stumbled forward, his glass shattering as he caught himself against a table, barely avoiding a fall that at his age could have been catastrophic. The bar erupted. Several regulars started to stand, but Razor's crew moved forward, hands going to pockets. Mike came around the bar, bat in hand. The situation was seconds from violence when a young soldier at a corner table, Specialist Rodriguez, pulled out his phone. He'd recognized something about the old man. The name on that veteran's cap. Parker, Colonel James Parker. Rodriguez typed frantically into his phone, messaging a group chat titled 160th SOAR Family, the Night Stalkers, the most elite helicopter unit in the Army. Rodriguez's brother was a pilot in that unit, and he knew Colonel Parker wasn't just any veteran. He was a Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam who trained half the senior officers currently serving, and whose grandson commanded a Black Hawk unit stationed 15 minutes away. Razor was still talking, enjoying his dominance. "That's what happens when you don't show respect, old man." James had straightened up, his face calm. "I survived the Tet Offensive, son. I think I'll survive you." There was no anger in his voice, just quiet fact that somehow made Razor angrier. "You think your ancient war stories scare me?" Razor moved closer. That's when everyone heard it. The distinctive whop 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 of helicopter rotors, growing louder, way too close for normal flight patterns. The building vibrated as the sound intensified. Through the windows, people could see dust kicking up in the parking lot. Razor's expression shifted from confidence to confusion. This is where everything changes. Keep watching, because what happens next is pure justice. The door burst open, and 8 men in flight suits marked with the 160th SOAR patch entered. Night Stalkers. Their leader, a major with steely eyes and the same sharp features as Colonel Parker, walked straight through the bar. Major Daniel Parker stopped 3 feet from Razor. "Did you just assault my grandfather?" Razor's face went pale. His crew had gone silent, suddenly aware they'd crossed a line they didn't know existed. We were just." "He was in my seat," Razor stammered. Daniel's voice was dangerously calm. "So you thought it appropriate to physically assault an 84-year-old Medal of Honor recipient? Do you have any idea what you've done?" Outside, more soldiers were arriving from the 2 Black Hawks that had landed in the parking lot. 20 elite pilots and crew chiefs, all responding to the call that someone had hurt Colonel Parker. The bartender, Mike, was grinning now. "Razor, that old man you pushed has more medals than you have teeth. And apparently, he's got a whole helicopter unit." Major Parker turned to his crew. "Make sure these gentlemen understand the situation. No violence, just education." The Night Stalkers surrounded the Iron Wolves with a presence that made the power dynamic shift completely. One pilot spoke directly to Razor. "You like to push around old men? How about you try that with us?" Razor and his crew looked like they wanted the floor to swallow them. "We're sorry, man. We didn't know." Daniel's voice cut like a knife. "You didn't know he was a war hero?" That's your problem. You shouldn't need to know someone's history to treat them with respect. You shouldn't need to know someone has back up to treat them with basic human decency. He turned to his grandfather, his expression softening. Pop, you okay? Colonel Parker nodded, a slight smile on his weathered face. I'm fine, Danny. You didn't have to make such a dramatic entrance. Daniel smiled back. Yes, I did. Nobody touches my grandfather, ever. He turned to Razor. You're going to apologize. Then you're going to leave. And if I ever hear about you causing trouble here again, we'll have another conversation. Razor approached Colonel Parker, head down, all swagger gone. Sir, I'm sorry. I was way out of line. It won't happen again. James studied him, then nodded. Apology accepted. Now leave, and think about the kind of man you want to be. The Iron Wolves practically ran out, their motorcycles disappearing down the highway within seconds. The bar erupted in cheers. Daniel hugged his grandfather, and the other Night Stalkers took turns shaking the old man's hand. The bartender brought out fresh whiskey for James and beers for the crews. Danny, you're going to get in trouble for this unauthorized flight, James said, eyes twinkling. Daniel shrugged. Worth it. Besides, we logged it as a training exercise. They stayed for an hour, soldiers swapping stories with the old colonel, who regaled them with tales from Vietnam. Specialist Rodriguez, who'd made the call, was thanked personally by Daniel. You did good, soldier. Looking out for veterans. That's what we do. As the sun set completely and the Night Stalkers prepared to leave, Daniel put his arm around his grandfather's shoulders. You sure you don't want a ride home in a Black Hawk? James laughed. I'll drive, thanks. But Danny, thank you. For caring. For coming. Daniel replied, always, Pop. Always. The Black Hawks lifted off, their rotors thundering, disappearing into the darkening sky, leaving behind a story that would be retold every time someone walked into that bar. This story isn't just about an old veteran getting defended or bullies getting scared. It's about understanding that respect isn't optional, that age doesn't diminish worth, and that sometimes justice comes from the sky in the form of people who refuse to let their loved ones face cruelty alone. Colonel Parker didn't need saving that day. He'd survived worse. But his grandson came anyway, because that's what family does. That's what soldiers do. They protect those who protected them. If this story reminds you to treat every elderly person with respect because you never know what they've survived or who loves them, share it. The world needs more people who stand up for those who once stood for all of us. Thank you for listening, and remember, respect is free, but the cost of disrespect can arrive in a Black Hawk.